Hey, this evening, like I said, tonight we are diving into a very challenging topic because it's about warning signs. It's about red flags in relationships. And who loves to talk about those things? Like, nobody does, because it always creates an awkward conversation. But I wanted to start us off just taking a look at these beautiful pictures. If you're not familiar with where these are taken, I will tell you. They are in Pacific City, Oregon, which is where my family will be going this year. And all of my extended family, almost all of them, they live in Oregon, and so we go to visit them, and then we see all different things. But this is one of the epic things that we do. We climb the giant sand hill, and as you can see, I mean, these are people coming to the top of this sand hill up here, and this is a view from the top looking down. It really is an awesome experience. But something that is interesting is when you get to the very top of the hill, you run across these signs. Danger, do not go beyond this point. But this is also an interesting thing that as a child, when I would climb up there, I remember the first year seeing the sign was like this high. And the next time I came up, same sign, but it was like this high. And the next time, it was this, like the fence just kept getting shorter and shorter because the sand was moving and shifting. And on the other side, this is an aerial view kind of looking back. And so that sign, this is all important here. So that sign ends up being right up here because they don't want you to come down into here because waves and whatnot come crashing through there, and it's, very dangerous, for lack of a better word. But come on, when you guys see a sign that says don't do something, what do you want to do? I know. And so my dad and I, great influence, right? My dad and I said, let's go. And so we went and we dropped down, and it was a steep drop, and it's this bowl. You can kind of see there's this bowl, and there's waves that just come crashing through these little tunnels that are bigger tunnels when you get down closer to them, and just waves are just going all over the place. And as I started descending down, I thought, this is not good. Like, I'm nervous. The tide is coming in. Like, how much time do I have to be down here? And again, my dad being the wonderful father, protective figure that he is, get closer. I got to get a good picture, And so I remember I'm backing up, and like this water and foam is just coming up over me, and I'm terrified, but I have to look cool for the picture, so I'm back here like this and smiling awkward. Sadly, I don't have the picture for you because it's at my parents' house, but the entire time that I'm down there, I'm terrified. And then I begin to look, how do I get out? Like you take a step and the sand just crumbles, and you try to climb and it just crumbles back down. And panic started to set in on me. And my imagination starts running a little bit wild. Like, this thing's going to fill up the next 30 minutes, and I'm going to be dead, it's all over. Or I got to get up high enough, but I'll never be able to reach the top, and so I have to figure out how to live in here. I got to figure out, how do I survive in this bowl for the rest of my life? And as I'm thinking through this, my entire time on the other side of the fence, there was anxiety, there was fear, and I found myself just really getting exhausted very quickly. And even though I thought I'm going to have to live there, finally I realized, no, if I just keep moving, I can get back to the fence and crawl back over on the right side. And it wasn't until I climbed back over, and actually the climbing was just this, to the other side, that I began to it's going to be okay. And the same is true, really, when we look at relationships and things that are good and things that are warning danger signs. And many times, why this is a tough topic is many times when we hear about these warning signs, if we're in a relationship, sometimes we're just prone to be like, meh, that's for everybody else. Or if we know people who are in relationships and we see some of these things in their relationships, we're like, well, that's them, and somebody should do something about that. It's a touchy subject because nobody ever wants to have a conversation of, hey, can we talk? I've made some observations. And it's because I love you and I care for you. That's why we're having this conversation. And I'm not judging you, but I'm coming alongside of you to ask you some questions. Nobody likes those conversations. Nobody does. And so we're going to talk about those lovely conversations this evening. But as we do, let's review a little bit, because we've come a long way in our whole relate journey, but now we're into the dating area, and we talked about that the desire for a relationship isn't bad. Remember, ... It's not bad because you're created in God's image. You are a relational being, and that is a good thing. So never, ever hear me say that if you have a desire for a relationship, doom on you. That's not at all. Not at all where I'm coming from. It's not bad, but it can be, and there's your first red flag, but you've already been listening. So we talked about an idol. Remember, like all of a sudden, if your desire for, if you could go through life without a relationship, but you know God in a more intimate way, are you okay with that? And if you answer no, there's a strong indication that you desire a relationship with a person more than you desire a relationship with God, and that's kind of what an idol is. You try to draw life from something other than God. And if that's you, that's a red flag that maybe you just need to stop trying to pursue a relationship. Or, if that's not you, and as you get to know somebody, you begin to see that, wow, their hunger and desire for this that's a red flag for you to go like, man, this is awesome and great, but this is not the right time. It's a flag. But you guys have already known about that one. Let's keep moving on here. Dating's main purpose isn't to find a spouse. It just may not be. There might be a bigger thing going on there. And I was thinking about that. We redefine dating. We looked at this, a process used by God for His glory, where you and others are encouraged, refined, and transformed into His image while growing in depth of relationship with another person through a series of dates. And we pulled it from those scriptures. And we just wanted us to look at dating as relieve some of that pressure, that it's not so much about, man, if we don't connect well on the first date, man, it's so much pressure. We want to release some of that and have you approach dating situations of, God, how can you be glorified? I'm showing up to meet with this girl. Father, how can I serve her? How can I encourage her? How can I be a blessing to her? How can I image you well in this conversation? That really changes the pressure. It's no longer, how do I get her to like me? How do I impress her? That's not what's going on when you approach dating this way. Now, it doesn't throw out the whole idea. Let me just clarify something. It doesn't throw out the entire thing of like, you're not dating just a date to kill time. When you get into a dating relationship, you are examining closely that individual to see, is this somebody I could see myself spending the rest of my life with? If yes, you continue to take steps. Is this and as you continue to get to know and you continue to explore, you're moving in that direction. If you're just killing time, that's a red flag and you need to stop. But all along that way, as you're walking, you're examining, is this good? Is this good? And eyes should be wide open. What does that exactly look like, though? His glory. And so I was thinking about this morning when I woke up. And this might be helpful. You can think of this as a thought or even a prayer. This might be a prayer that you guys want to pray and see, does this resonate with your heart? Or is it like, that sounds great for you, Todd, but not for me? God, you know that I'd like to be married, but more than that, I want to glorify you. Does that resonate in your heart? If it does, it's good. Help me glorify you in dating or in this relationship by seeing others as you see them, by spending time with those you want, by doing the things that you want, by treating myself and others as you want, by responding to all things as you want. Are you catching? As you want, as you want, as you want. Always giving thanks, for I trust that you will lead me well. My life and hope are in you alone. If you approach relationships with this as your true heart attitude, God will be glorified. It's tremendous. And there's freedom that comes with that as well. Something bad happens. I get disappointing news. I'm just not into you, Todd. Oh, God, before I respond how I think I want to, Lord, how would you have me respond? She probably has to feel horrible about telling me this. How can I be an encouragement? How can I actually thank her for being honest and letting me know that before I got even more emotionally attached? How can I encourage her even when I feel crushed? That's crazy talk. If this is not your attitude, I would strongly encourage you to pause for a moment. We also looked like last week, and we spent, I have to make assumptions. And that's the hardest part of any talk on dating. I have to assume, do you remember the three things? Because they're right there. That I have to assume that already before you're ready to step into the entire realm of dating, I have to assume that you're a believer, that you've come to know who Christ is and what He has done for you. I have to assume that not only have you just come to the saving knowledge that, I'll see you later, but you're actually actively pursuing Him. You're pursuing by either reading through community, by coming into Bible studies and Junction, that you're getting into His Word, that you're getting to know more and more who He is. And when you understand more and more who He is, I have to assume that you're trusting what He says about who He is and who you are. And the result of that is that really you're become incredibly content. I have to assume that that's where you are, because then you are functioning as God has designed, and then you are able to actually be an incredible blessing to those around you. If not, you're just going to be take, me, what I want. That also would be a red flag if that's not true of who you are or who you're pursuing. And here's the thing, if you get this down and they get that down and you have some commonalities, like, man, we both like this, we both like this, we both love to serve this way, there's probably a great chance that you are in the right relationship, moving in the right direction for a really incredible lifetime together. Doesn't guarantee it, but boy, your odds just went from like 2%, probably in the 90s. This is huge. And then not only that if you maintain this into marriage, oh baby, it is good. It is good indeed. You'll have the type of marriage that people go like, tell me, how do you do that? Why? You're not angry at each other all the time. How do you honor and serve? I don't get that. Well, let me tell you. And you bring them back to these things. We talked about what to look for in dating. One of the main things you should look for, if those things above, that you're a believer, that you're active, that you trust, and that you're content, the number one thing that you should be looking in somebody to pursue or somebody to date is that they are a Christian. And I love that I need to clarify a little bit of this, which is great. Okay, so friends versus dating. Let me just pause for just a moment here. Do not hear me say from last week, nor hear me say right now that I'm saying only Christians can be friends with Christians, and if you're not a Christian, then I can't have anything to do with you, because that's just a bunch of bunk. Okay? You should have a lot of people who do not know Christ, who are around you and that you are interacting with, because we are to go into the world and declare His love and His life. Amen. So I am not sitting here saying, hey, if they're not a Christian, just push them away. But what I am saying, when it comes to a dating relationship, that's different than a friendship. That's inviting somebody closer and closer and closer and closer into this relationship with you. That person needs to be coming from the same place that you are. Because if you're thinking like God thinks and they're approaching things as the world thinks, there's going to be tension all over the place. Yep. I will leave it at that. Hopefully that clears things up on that. Commonalities and attractions, we talked about that, as those are great things to have in common as well. So, here we go. Number one thing. Big warning sign. And you guys like, duh. You're going to be duh by a lot of these. Let me just be honest with you. You remember? Let me just be honest with you, because usually that means I'm lying, right? No, I hate that expression, but lying. If I can get somebody to be looking up Colossians 3:9, and as you're looking that up, the two pictures that I have here, the first one here is, what do you think that is? What do you think is going on? A job interview. And the other one, what do you think is going on? First date. Yeah, or a date. And it's very interesting to me. I have made this observation that the places that we as people seem to lie the most are in these two arenas. You need a job, you show up and you're like, I'm here for a job. What does it require? Well, this job requires that you are going to be digging holes all day long, and after that we want you to eat the dirt that you dig up, and then after you've consumed the dirt, I want you to come over here and I want you to lick my dog's feet to clean them off, and then after that, what I want you to do is I want you to change my child's diapers with no hands. And then after that, as that goes through, and you're sitting there because it's a job interview, you're like, man, I really count myself as somebody who just has a real loving taste for dirt. I mean, I never knew there was a job that would be so incredibly well-matched and well-suited for me. Now, you may not go to that extreme, but so many times in our job interviews, we're not honest. We get a job, and then 6 months later, we're like, I hate my job. Duh. You weren't honest from the word go. Same thing happens in relationships. Well, man, I think she's cute. I think you're so cute too, and we should go out and we should have a milkshake. Oh, that would be lovely. I love strawberry milkshakes. How about you? Strawberry. I hate strawberry. Oh, it's my favorite. I love it. Oh, I just knew that you would. And then can we go see a romantic comedy afterwards? That's my favorite genre of movies. I love it. Oh my goodness. We do this because we're focusing on the wrong thing. And then we get into this relationship and we're like, this is just horrible. She just wants to go and have strawberry milkshakes and watch romantic comedies. And I'm so tired of it. That's how you presented yourself. It is so interesting to me that these two areas that will take up a large portion of our lives, we are so quick to lie in. And yes, that's a strong word. Well, Todd, come on. I mean, come on. It's a strawberry milkshake. Everybody does that. Another quick story. I know you probably already have it already, but another quick story for you. I was working with a youth director up in Iowa, and he was telling me he just got married, and he says, it was crazy. We got married, went on our honeymoon, we came back, we went to church, and I came back, and after church I said, hey, let's go have lunch at our favorite, the China buffet. And she looked at me and she said, listen here, cat's out of the bag. I hate Chinese food. He's like, we dated for several years, and we had Chinese food all the time. And so now here he is with his beautiful bride, and they're fine, but they don't enjoy Chinese food together. Because that was, it's just a fib. No, it's a lie. Can we just be honest with that? It's a lie. If you've got Colossians, I just need Colossians. The Corinthians, we're going to let it sit. The Colossians 3:9.
Do not lie to one another, since you laid aside the old self with its evil practices.
Oh, man, I hate it when Scripture is just so clear. We are to be men and women who are truth tellers. Speak truth in love with hope for edification. Remember that one from a couple weeks ago? Aw, who doesn't love kittens, right? Yeah, I don't, okay? I know, but listen to this. This is important. An important announcement. So when I was in Chile, I had not yet met Aaron, but I was right on the brink of meeting Aaron, and I was matched with somebody else. And I'm like, this girl is pretty cool. And we talked quite a bit, and we had a conversation like, are you more of a cat person, dog person, or, whatever. And, she said, whatever, I'm good with whatever. And we moved on, and a week or so, or 2 weeks later, I was talking to her on the phone. She says, I'm having a bad day. My cat just got out, and then there was dead silence. And I'm like, what? What? You have a cat? Yeah. Oh. Honestly, I don't care that she had a cat or didn't have a cat. It made no difference to me whatsoever. Why didn't you, when we talked about this a week and a half ago, why didn't you say something? Well, I knew that you don't like cats, and so I thought that if I said I had a cat, that maybe you wouldn't want to continue to talk with me. Oh. Do you only have one cat? Well, no. Well, let me ask you more specifically, because since you're not bringing the information forward, how many do you have? 3? Okay. Well, what was your plan? Like, what was your plan? Like, what if things worked out? What if I flew up to meet you? What was your plan? Well, I would choose a relationship over my cats. I would figure out a place for them to go. So I was like, well, this is not a fun conversation. I, I, I don't even know what to say. I'll have to talk to you later. Click. Next day, I can be honest with you. Gotta be honest with you. Catching that? I don't think we need to continue to talk. Over cats? Well, here's the deal. See, I'm down in Chile, and you're up here in the U.S., and if you were willing to compromise your integrity to try to impress me over your view on cats, how do I know where you're not doing that? How do I know really who you are? Well, I've been truthful about everything else. You probably are, but how do I know? Thankfully, I was quickly matched with a person who was incredibly honest, bluntly honest at times, and asked wonderful questions, and is my beautiful bride now, which I'm incredibly thankful for. Here's the deal. The lying, it shatters the foundation for trust in each other. And so if you're interested in somebody, we should go get milkshakes. Oh, that'd be great. Where's your favorite place to go? Oh, I really like Dairy Queen. Oh, Dairy Queen. I don't like. Oh, it's my favorite place. I encourage you, stop and just be honest. It's really freeing. You just be you. Strawberry shake? I love strawberry shakes. Oh, you do? I don't really care for them, but you know what? It's okay. You can have a strawberry one. I can have a chocolate one. Let's go. Not a deal breaker. But you start those patterns in very small things, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not willing to be honest about the flavor of milkshake, why in the world would the person that you are interested in believe anything else that you have to say? It's just a milkshake, Todd. It's not. It's a pattern, and it's your integrity. Is your integrity worth a milkshake? Is your integrity worth a date? It also displays lack of trust in God. Well, if I say I don't like strawberry milkshake, then she's out of here. It's all over, and then I'm going to be alone the rest of my life. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, so I better just tell her. I can endure. I love strawberry milkshakes. I will learn to love strawberry milkshakes, Because if I don't, you're going to leave me. I'll be alone because I don't trust that God is bigger than strawberry milkshakes. See, we just see these things as really small, but the reality is a huge deal. And the reality is truth will come out. You can only live a lie for so long. Truth's out. Chinese food, psh, not my thing. This is a duh, right? And yet it's not a duh. Talk about abuse, either verbal, emotional, physical. It's a huge red flag. Massive, ginormous. And yet, there will be people, maybe in this room, who enter into a relationship that progressively gets worse and worse and worse, and you refuse to leave. You may have seen that cycle in your own home growing up, and so you are naturally drawn. But this is a major red flag. And I feel like I shouldn't even have to talk about that, but the reality is I have known too many people who have entered into relationships where this has been an issue. It's very easy to allow yourself to be abused, maybe not physically, but when you start coming around to verbal and emotional abuse, it's really, really easy. Oh, well, that's just kind of a joke at my expense. Oh, and then it continues to increase. Then it continues to increase. And you continue to shred me and tear me down until I'm a shell of a person than who I was when I first started with you. So I think the thing that makes this, again, so challenging, if you didn't catch it early on, we are the body of Christ, and we have the responsibility to love each other. And so if I see you in a relationship that looks like this, I will run, I will grab a hold of you, and I will pull you, kicking and screaming, out. I can't force you to stay out, but a lot of times you just need space. And it may mean that you hate me the rest of your entire life, but I'm okay with that. Because this does not represent a way that God desires you to be treated. Colossians 3:8.
But now you also put aside all anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive speech from your mouth.
It's pretty clear. It doesn't happen just guys to girls. Challenging thing, you don't know it. A lot of times I say that, a lot of times you don't realize it was happening when it's happening, but it wasn't until well into my first marriage, it wasn't until well into that other people pointed that out as everything was falling apart. And I'm like, Todd, what are you doing? How did you let this happen? Like, what are you talking about? I have to go get her money because right now she's waiting for her date. I have to go get her money so she can pay to take him out for dinner because she's going to go hungry. I have to go. What is wrong with you, Todd? You don't understand if I don't, she's going to be mean and she'll be mad. It's easy to fall into this. Disrespect of God and His creation, it doesn't not just disappear. Oh, he'll get better. Oh, she'll get better. You're not created for that. Get out and get help. I told you it's kind of a downer message, huh? Red flags are horrible. How about this one? Winner. Isolation. And this is a tough one because it's huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is huge. Because is what happens often. I just love strawberry milkshakes. Well, me too. Let's go get strawberry milkshakes. So we go get strawberry milkshakes, and that's great, and it's wonderful and awesome. I had so much fun with the strawberry milkshake. Well, I had great fun with strawberry milkshake too. We should do this again. Oh, we should. Maybe like tomorrow? Oh, that sounds great. Well, why wait tomorrow? We can go ahead and start right now. Well, I'm supposed to see somebody, but I can cancel. Okay, let's just go see the movie Strawberry Shortcake because strawberries in it. And okay, and so off you go. And then, as you know, you continue down this road where, golly, I just don't know if I can make it to Junction anymore, guys. I got big responsibilities now because I got a lady friend and, well, you know. And you start removing yourself further and further and further away because we're just our happy little selves. We're happy over here all by ourselves. And some of this is normal. You start a relationship, there's going to be that's normal. We enjoy each other, we spend some time, so you have to pull time from someplace. But if it just continues to consume more and more and more and more, you get into this very unhealthy place. We have Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23 through 25.
Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together.
What was that? Not what? Sorry.
Not giving up meeting together.
Wait, what was that? I'm so sorry. I can't hear.
Not giving up meeting together.
Oh, okay. Keep going. I'm sorry.
As some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching.
Oh, sweet. See, a lot of things happen when you do this. When you isolate yourself, that it's total danger because there's no accountability. Nobody's checking. Nobody knows. You're doing your own thing. Nobody knows. And you think it's really great and awesome, but during that nobody knows time, you don't realize that all of a sudden abuse is starting to happen. Or you don't realize the compromises that you're beginning to make because there's nobody around who's known you longer than this relationship who can sit there and say, golly, things are changing in you. Have you noticed? Nobody? You don't give anybody the opportunity to do that. You also don't give, that seems so negative, but you don't give people the opportunity to celebrate with you. This is so cool. I am so glad. I can't believe that you and you are finally together. Like, man, the way that you guys served individually together, or apart, and now you're together and you get to serve. This is incredible. This is so awesome. We just want to celebrate with you. But by isolating yourself, you deny people that opportunity. But typically when you're isolating yourself, it usually is because there's something not so grand going on in your relationship. There's usually other compromises that come on. And there's usually this other attitude that starts coming up thinking, babe, this is just us against the world. They're just jealous of the love that we have. They don't understand. well, I talked to my mom and she really loved meeting you and everything, but she doesn't like you very much. She just doesn't get me. Now go get me another beer and get me a new video game because I got to sit here and conquer Super Mario. Whatever it may be. As you isolate yourself, you remove yourself from any type of accountability, any type of encouragement. And it hinders the body of Christ. Did you know that? That you are all, if you are in Christ as a new creation, you are part of his body. And he desires you to function as part of his body. And so if you're the elbow and you leave, we're to remain active. It's a huge, huge red flag that goes on here. Keep moving through. Ignoring boundaries. Ooh, the line, you, the me with the whole sand dune thing, right? Who's like this? Come on. I'll fess up. Don't touch wet paint. Is it really still wet? That's just perfectly manicured lawn. Don't keep off the grass. Well, why? It looks so refreshing. One hurt. That's just in me. That's just in me. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 24. If we're moving to it, I don't know where our ninja is.
Let no one seek his own good, but that of his neighbor.
Don't seek your own good, but you're looking for the other. And so what I mean by boundaries here, there's a lot of different boundaries that we're talking about. Physical, but emotional are the two I want to focus in on. The first one, obviously, physical boundaries. And we'll talk in a couple weeks about this. It starts slow. Well, I have the boundary that we will only have eye contact. Because I know I struggle with, as soon as there's physical contact, I just won't do that. Oh, that's nice. Oh, it's just, I'm patting you on the shoulder, but oh, wow, that's a hug. That's really nice. And down and down and down you go of compromise. Or compromise happens this way, man. You know what? I don't really feel comfortable being in my apartment or my house alone with somebody of the opposite gender. I don't really feel comfortable with that, and you communicate this with the person that you're starting to see. I just don't feel comfortable with it because people around are going to assume you can come in and that's all fine and dandy, but man, if you're staying here till way late at the night and you're back over the first thing in the morning, people are going to think that you're staying here. I think that my testimony is more important than that, and so that's just a boundary that that's just me. Oh, I get it, babe. That's totally fine. Hey, do you mind if I shower at your place? Have you seen my bicep? What are you doing? Stop. I'm not comfortable with that. Oh, come on. And how am I supposed to put my arm around you, babe? I kind of stink right now. And you just push right past their boundaries. Emotional boundaries, too, man. I think I've told this story before. I have a person that I've known in the past who is always curious about other people and wants to know everything about that person, which is great. But he wants to know everything at your first coffee. And at first, a lot of times women were like, well, that's nice. He was very interested in me. And then you get back together and he wants you to bare your soul even more. And you're like, I don't know you well enough to give you this part of me. Well, come on. And as it happens, he just didn't understand. I'm like, dude, you're creeping people out. This is why people aren't continuing to go with you. What are you talking about? I'm just trying to get to know them. I'm like, dude, you're taking things down here when really you're only supposed to be here right now. You can't push yourself on somebody like that. Well, I'm not even holding their hands. It's eye contact. But there are boundaries here as well. A couple questions. Do you have any? Whether in a relationship or you're not in a relationship, do you know? Or are you just like, hey, it's just all free for all? It doesn't matter. If it'll keep you here, you can do whatever you want. Or are you sitting there saying, you know what, I'm not in a relationship right now, but here's the deal. I know that I am valuable and that I'm not my own, that Christ has bought me to be his, and that I have incredible worth and value. Because of that, I'm setting up, these are the things, these are parameters that this is just where I'm comfortable. Do you have those yet? Are you willing to communicate them with somebody? Remember, quick story too, I was at the camp in Iowa, and there was a gal, and she was dating a dude who was not at the camp. He was in another city or whatever else, and she was moving to go be with him, which I thought was really great. And so she was getting ready to go, and we'd worked together for a while, and I was like, hey, it's been really great working with you, whatever else. Let me just give you a hug goodbye. And she was like, how about a handshake? Just a handshake. Because my fiance at that time, he'd become fiance, we've just decided like that's appropriate. I'm like, that is cool. I wasn't offended. You don't want a Berkey hug? Like, that's cool. You have a boundary, you've established it, and you're enforcing it. Your man is incredibly lucky. If you have those boundaries, are they healthy? And then who checks in to make sure? Do you have anybody who's holding you accountable to any of that? You start dating somebody? How's the eye contact going? Well, it's pretty good. And, no more than 3 seconds of direct eye contact, otherwise it's too intense. So, we got close to the line. It was 2.5 seconds last night, but whatever that may be. And are you a boundary pusher, or is the person with you a boundary pusher? If they are, bad news. They're selfish. They don't care about you. Yes, they do. How can you say that? Really? This is the cool thing. When you make these boundaries, physical boundaries, let's just pick on physical boundaries. When you make them and you communicate them, what you are doing is you are giving that person an opportunity to love you. That's what you're doing. You're saying, you can love me by not whatever. And as you follow these requests of mine, you are loving me. What about me? I want a hug. You don't even care about me. Boy, that sounds like a really giving attitude, doesn't it? And if they're having that attitude and they're trying to manipulate you, they don't care about you. It is nothing but 100% selfishness that's coming at you. And I encourage you, go away. Break the wrist, walk away. There's no respect for you, destroys trust. And then here's the thing. Have you thought about this? Really think things through, bigger picture. If they're not honoring the boundaries that you have set up, if they're not doing that right now, why would they honor that later? We're married. Babe, I will never, ever pursue another woman. I promise. Those are the boundaries that we have. Well, you have a great history of how you've followed those boundaries. Why would you ever believe anything that they're going to say about those boundaries? Ouch. Todd. Mean. Truthful. But when we ignore this, when we ignore it, and then we end up in this relationship that's horrible, I'm not putting all blame on you. But the reality, you need to be like, no. If it means I go through the rest of my life only with the Lord, but I'm not compromising, I'm chasing recklessly after love, and I'll do whatever you want, that's okay. That's a healthy way to live. God, you are more important. Because when you compromise, when you make these, when you allow a person to bring about that compromise, you are only inviting in heartache later on in your relationship. Drama. Always the victim. You guys know these people, don't you? Like, oh my goodness. So, at work, my coworkers came in, and they looked at me, and they said like, uh-oh, somebody had the non-matchies today, and they just started making fun of me, and then I went from there, I went to H-E-B, and I was buying some stuff, and the guy, he was just mean to me. He just started yelling at me because I was trying to find my debit card, and apparently I wasn't going fast enough for him, and so he just started yelling at me. Well, nobody should talk to me that way, because I stand up for myself. And so I yelled at him, and then the manager had to get involved. And I was going over the counter. You guys know some of these people, maybe. And it's never their fault. They're just, There they go again. My friends are doing this to me. There they go again. This guy's doing this to me. There they go again. This person's doing this to me. There they go again. They're doing this to me. Oh, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. Every place I go, drama follows me. Romans chapter 12, verse 18, please.
If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men.
So long as it depends upon you, be at peace with all. That requires flexing. I don't want to do that. I want to hug now, so I don't care about your boundaries. Same thing is going on in the middle of this. There's no ownership, no willingness to admit wrong. Have fun as that relationship deepens and there's ever a problem between you and them. Have fun always being the one who is wrong, because it's not going to change. Poor wisdom if they're just repeating the same behavior over and 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 over. I mean, have fun. It's not going to go away until they realize there's a problem. The problem's not the problem, I'm the problem, and that's a problem in itself. I need help. Then change can happen. We just looked at a few here. Lying, abuse, isolation, ignoring boundaries, drama. Communication is another big red flag, but we're going to actually give an entire session to communication. I know, right? Us versus them, attitude, ignoring the counsel of others. There are others you guys can talk about. But here's the deal. I want us to look at this. I thought, I'm a visual person. I don't know if you are or not. But remember the assumption that I'm starting out with? That we are, starts with a B, remember? And that we are active and that we are trusting and that we're content. Because we're these full, completed people, we're not operating from this place of discontentment. We're looking to fill a certain need and fill a certain identity. That's not us, right? But if that assumption is not true and you're just here, you're just discontent and life is horrible and miserable and everything is against you, this is a trend that sometimes happens. So discontent, and you figure out, well, I need something, right? I got to have something, and so you get a relationship. That fills it in because I see other people, they look happy, and so, hey, you like strawberry milkshakes? I don't really care because I just want a relationship. Well, I'll like whatever you want me to like. That sounds great. So you enter into that relationship, and man, life all of a sudden, woo, it's starting to get really good. This is awesome. But then you realize something. That person really is not completing you. The same issues that were there, the same dissatisfaction you had with life pre-relationship is still there now in a relationship. Well, of course, the problem is probably them, right? Yeah. So things start going downhill, and you begin to think, well, what we need to do, we need to begin to add some physical things. And so that's these little things you're like, oh, well, here's a compromise. Let's start doing this. And then, oh, let's start doing this. And then, oh, let's incorporate sex because that's what everybody else is doing. And so, woohoo, this is great. This feels awesome and amazing. Right? Yeah, this is exactly what I was needing and I was missing. And then you forget the fact that with that, there's all these other things that happen. There's guilt and shame that usually comes along the back end of things. And so it comes crashing down. And then one of two things happens. You either say, well, this was just the wrong person. Therefore, I will follow the orange line, come back to my discontentedness, and begin to think, I must have been the wrong person. Let me try you. You go through the cycle again. Must be the wrong person. Let me try you. You go through the cycle again, and this time you're like, well, this is the third time's a charm, but it's just not the thing. You know what was missing? We just need some real commitment. So yeah, let's get engaged. Yes! I know things are difficult, but as soon as we get engaged, I have a pretty ring, and it is going to be awesome and amazing, and man, life just starts going great for you because you got a fiancé, my fiancé. But sadly enough, because you started from a position of discontentment, that still is nagging there, and so that quickly wears off, and you decide, but that's okay, it's just because we're not actually married. Once we have that commitment of marriage, then it's all going to be great and wonderful, and so you get married, and you have everything that you've ever wanted, the dress, the flowers, the people, the venue, the photographer. She's back there, that's what you want. The photographer. You have the honeymoon. You go to Tahiti. It's a magical place. You come home from Tahiti, and you realize there's still discontentment. Well, you know what it is? It's not, we just need kids. That's the thing. We need to bring kids because if I have that, that will complete the longing in me. And here comes a kid. Oh, this is so, wait, it eats and poops so much. This is horrible. What's going on? It's not filling the void. Maybe we need to have a second one. Oh, wow, this is still doing the same thing that the first one did. Some of you grew up like this. Some of you grew up in a home where you're a product of people saying, something's got to complete me and it's got to be you. And your parents have been very loving and encouraging, and they've poured their whole lives into you, but they've never been allowed to really let go. They don't want to let go of you because you're it. You're their life. And now you're in this weird place, and you wonder why, but it's because of this. Sadly, a lot of times people here will make a new orange line, bail out, come back, I'm discontented, and now I'm divorced, and I have 2 children that desperately need me and are longing to be in an awesome relationship with me. But you know what? Your needs are not so important. It's all about me. I just had the wrong person, and let me start this crazy cycle all over again. And now I've got 2 families, but you know what? That wasn't right. So I got 4 kids, but that wasn't right. Let me step back out. Still the wrong one. I'm going to do better this time. The cycle repeats itself, repeats itself, repeats itself. And if you grew up in this, it will impact you. It will impact you. What we're advocating for, what I'm advocating for, is simply this. You start from a content position. You should notice already you're starting higher up the contentment level. Ta-da! Because your identity and your value and your worth is found in something that's unmovable and unshakable. That's Jesus Christ. And life is good. The things are moving. A relationship, boop, you're just still moving up. That's okay. But do you notice it's not this huge thing that puts you all the way, cool, because I'm content in Christ. Cool. You brought along somebody for me. Cool. But my hope and my identity is in you still, Lord. And so that doesn't change, and life continues to go. Maybe somewhere along the line, before you get engaged, you realize this is not really the right person for me. I've just, as we've explored, as we've looked at things, it's not because that you're not a believer and that you're not active, you're not trusting, you're not content, but man, you just serve differently than how I serve, and I don't know. I just don't know if this is the best fit. As I think about how God wants to utilize me, and I think He wants me to be involved in ministry, and He wants me to have a home full of people where I'm constantly reaching out, but you're wired in a way that freaks you out and you don't want anything to do with that. I got to be honest with you. I think maybe we're not supposed to be together. Not because there's anything wrong with you, but and so you come back over here, but because of the fact that you're a believer and you're active and you're trusting and you're content, it doesn't shatter you. And you start the process again, but let's say you get past that and you continue and you get engaged. Notice again, it's still an upward movement, but it's not this huge thing. And now listen, I'm not saying that your emotions won't be off the chart. Your emotions will be, but your contentment and your satisfaction is not going to be totally dependent upon that individual. It's upon Christ and Christ alone. And that stability is what you're basing everything on. And so your entire world is not wrapped up in an individual. Because if it is, people will always hurt you, not because they want to. They just will. We're flawed creatures. So then you get marriage, and that's when you add in sex. Woo! And now you're thinking like, woohoo! Your line is still going up. And then you have kids in there as well, and it just continues this steady growth. That's all assuming that we have what we assumed last week is true. I don't know which line describes you. I would hope if this line is describing your life, I would hope that you have people around you who will walk alongside of you and begin to call out of you the man or woman that God has made you to be. That's part of the body of Christ. It doesn't have to stay this way. This doesn't have to be your line. But so long as relationships are the main thing that will complete you, that will be the main part of your line. I also want to clarify this. Being a Christian, and even if you're believing, you're active, you're trusting, you're content, does not mean that you won't have hard times. Doesn't mean that bad things just never happen to you. Doesn't mean that you don't sometimes get frustrated and lose your temper. Doesn't mean that you're perfect. And just because there's the absence of Christ, I've known some non-believers who have just been, I'm so very dedicated to things, I'm so very dedicated to things, and they're able to kind of navigate things in an okay way with each other. But it's different. Christ changes everything if we will allow him. It's a cool, cool thing. Next week, we're going to be talking about communication. Then we have spring break. I changed the spring break because otherwise you might have read like communication, spring break, sex, godly marriage. You know, that wouldn't have been what we're trying to promote here. So communication, spring break. We'll come back after spring break. We'll talk about sex. Then we'll talk about godly marriage, and then we'll do a Q&A. What we'll do is we'll give you instructions on that later. We won't make you stand up and like, well, I'm wondering about, you can email the questions in. And then we won't be like, well, Ben wanted to know. We won't call you out. But if there's questions that you just have, and both Aaron and I will field that during that section at that time. But it's just the warning sign thing, it like I said, it's a hard, unfun topic. But it's awesome topic because brothers and sisters in Christ love each other well. 1 Corinthians 13, has anybody heard of that chapter before? And it's the love chapter, and it's read like at every wedding, right? Have you guys ever thought about the context of the love chapter? Because he's talking about marriage, right? He's talking, is he talking about marriage? It's only marriage, right? There's only married people do that. Wait, no, marriage, that was like chapter 7, I think. So he's moving on, and so this is how we love each other now. Are we patient with each other? Do we rejoice in truth? Are we willing to step outside of our comfort zone and have a very uncomfortable conversation? But here, let me give you this as well. Let's say I don't know Ben at all, and I'm just over here. I've seen him one place. It's probably not my responsibility to go like, hey, Ben, my name's Todd. I know you don't know me, but I want to talk to you about your boundaries that you have, because he's like, who are you? That's offensive. But now, if Ben and I have an established relationship, and I can come along and say, hey, Ben, I've been noticing something. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but blah, 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 whatever that thing is. Ben is much more likely to be like, man, I know that Todd cares about me, and he loves me, and that he has my best at heart. And so I'm going to listen to what he has to say. He may be full of it, and he may not understand what's going on, but he actually may have some wisdom. But that all starts with the relationship. That whole isolation thing, it's not just for couples. Huge warning sign. I just wanted to swing back to this too. If you're interested in somebody and you're like, well, man, I think you're really groovy and stuff like that, like, who do you normally hang out with? Like, nobody. You don't have any friends? Well, I mean, I've got a friend somewhere. Well, what's the friend's name? Well, when I look in the mirror, is it good looking? You know, whatever it may be. That really is kind of a warning sign. We're designed to be in community. You get kind of weird when you get in isolation. So take that for what that's worth. I really encourage you, invest in other people. Allow them to love on you. Allow them to be real with you. It's an incredible, incredible thing. Ooh, let's pray.